All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. I think this is the last session you'll be in before the bar opens, so that's great. We're here to talk about Zoom Contact Center. The title's, I don't know who came up with this title, but to me, the two things that I expect you to get away from this session is a deeper understanding of Zoom's true capabilities. Maybe reorienting, how you look at a company like Zoom and their capabilities. But also, you all have the unique privilege to hear directly from a CIO who has been through, several major tech initiatives at some very large companies here in the U.S., but has recently been through a migration with Zoom for Contact Center and UCaaS. So, just so we know who's in the room, real quick. Show of hands, is there anyone who either runs, manages, or is just somewhat a part of a call center today with your employer? Okay, cool. All right, nice. Makes sense that you're here.
You're in the right spot.
Keep your hands up if your environment is still on-prem. Okay, all right. You're not alone. There's several of you here. And if you do have a cloud-based, contact center solution today, show of hands. Okay, great. So we're not going to wait to the end for questions. If you do have something you'd like to ask Rick or myself or Shanna, please feel free to put your hand up and you can hear from us firsthand in terms of what the experience was like. But my name is Kyle Warhan. I'm a global technology advisor at C3 based in Chicago. I'm here with the head of ZCX channel, Shanna Hafterson, and the CIO of Midwest Vision Partners, Rick Widmer. So Rick, thank you so much for being here with us today. If you first wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about Midwest Vision Partners and who that company is and maybe what your environment was like before you even started evaluating Zoom.
Thanks, Kyle. Glad everybody's here and looking forward to some questions here. But Midwest Vision Partners is a ophthalmology group. They have about 70 locations, mostly across Michigan and Ohio, and 10 surgery centers. So we have about 150 doctors and see around 450,000 patients a year. Our previous environment was Nextiva. It was a hosted solution. It was signed 4 or 5 years ago, built out in a not elegant manner, and we came to the determination that we just didn't have the visibility into what our agents were doing, what our clinic voice was doing. It just did not give us the tools that we needed. So we determined we're going to rebuild. So we connected with C3, went through a full-on RFP process, and came down to the end, and we ended up with Zoom as our selection. And so far, it's been a great run.
And you've been on Zoom approximately how long?
So we signed the contract at the end of April. We started rolling clinics out in June, and we finished at the end of September.
Got it. So Shanna, maybe a question for you then. Just before we get into more of the details, what Rick's experience was like, how are you seeing companies, traditionally you've been known as a meetings platform, and it was the fall of 21 to where there was the potential merger with Five9, which I think we were all excited about. And
I was at Five9 at the time,
Oh,
actually.
that's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was. So
And I
went through it, actually,
Yes.
personally.
And we were all kind of a little disappointed when it fell through because we thought it would be like this great marriage. But it's been, as an observer, it's been pretty incredible to see what Zoom has done the last several years, spending hundreds of millions of dollars investing in building your own native platform. So just from what you've seen in, say, the last year, how are you seeing other companies adopt Zoom outside of just meetings?
Thank you, Kyle. First, Rick, thank you so much for choosing Zoom. Just really excited for you to share what we talked about before this panel today with the audience. But so about 3 years ago, I joined Zoom, and at the time I was at Five9, and I can humbly say that it was a good decision, although 3 years ago, a lot of the people that I knew thought I was, maybe not in the right headspace. But anyway, so just kind of wanted to give a little background there. But in the last year, I've seen a lot of our customers. So number one, giving Zoom a chance or a try and an opportunity to work with you and collaborate with you. So just like Rick had mentioned, and collaborating with C3, and you guys giving Zoom the chance, even though we are about 3 years in. even though we've made Gartner Magic Quadrant on the CCAS first time in 3 years, right? I've seen a lot of customers say, okay, let's take a chance and let's go through a proof of concept. Let's actually test out 1, 2, 3, depending on the use cases. Let's build out the flows. Let's build out the agent experience. Let's give them AI expert assist. Maybe leverage a focus group that I learned about today on the main stage. I think those are awesome. Talk to the people actually using the technology. Get the managers out of the room. Let them be real. Maybe it's after the POC. What went well, what didn't, and then how can they conceptualize and utilize maybe a virtual agent and take that virtual agent to a live agent or escalation, and then having automation on the post-call wrap-ups. It just depends on the environment, but a lot of customers also consolidating their tech stack, right? We talk a lot about disparate systems, or for example, you had something for 4 to 5 years. How do you consolidate? So there's a lot of avenues. I know I kind of give a long-winded answer, but that's just from top of mind when you ask me that question, what I think about.
So you touched on something that is very common: disparate systems. So I think the larger a company gets, the more fragmented those systems get. And when you evaluate new technologies, it seems great, it looks great. You can envision your team and your call center in this future state. But then I think the big question is, how do you get there, right? How do I take my current environment, the way we currently operate today, and get to this desired future state? And I think one of those challenges is having disparate systems, siloed data. So, and nothing's perfect, right? So I think how you go about the scoping, the implementation, working with somebody that's been through this several times before, like Rick has, really makes all the difference between a good outcome or kind of a frustrating situation and taking longer to get to that desired future state. So, Rick, can you tell us a little bit more about what that was like, right? Going from what your old solution, the old way of doing things, and whether it was you personally or your department heads going through this transition, experiencing it firsthand. Just what was it like? What did you notice?
Well, I'll go back a little bit further. I've been through various phone system call center upgrades from back, putting in MPLS networks, so we had on-premise, IP systems talking to each other. Been through this multiple times, but, I would say this round, we ended up going a little bit further back in the process. C3 did focus groups with our team and understood and then helped us vet the different solutions along the way. It gave us confidence. We knew what we were getting into. One of the reasons we ended up with Zoom was they were fresh, right? Their technology is new. One of the things I've experienced through this is, early on we identified a couple minor things that we didn't like. By the time we were deployed, it was live, right? So those are, can't promise that, right? But
depending on who you know at Zoom, maybe. No, I'm just
every few weeks there's a new release where it's like, all right, we can use this. But yeah, it's. I'm not going to say there weren't challenges, right? Every project's going to have challenges. It was the least eventful call center move I've ever done, and when we had things go wrong, we contacted C3 team and Zoom reacted, and we found a resolution.
Well, I was just going to say, just to hear that you were going through, discovery to close and then implementation, and those features that you requested were live in a matter of 3 months. I don't know exactly what they were because I wasn't part of the project deployment, but I don't know if there was one in top of mind maybe that, again, I'm putting you on the spot, and I know, Kyle, this is your session, but that was I was like, what was it?
I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but one of it was, I don't know if it's truly productized yet, but it's a burstable agent license, right? So that's when we started.
It is live.
Okay. So, we needed to expand because October is our busiest month. In ophthalmology, Christmas time isn't our busy time. Ours is October. So we needed a larger team, and we didn't want to sign for a multiple-year contract. So we did a little digging, and they came out with the product, and it's live. So.
Thank you.
So unlike some of the other tech that we consult on, in network, infrastructure, where it's more about, bits and bytes and like total costs and like terms and conditions. Contact center is the closest thing to the business, right? It's the difference of, happy customers. It's literally how a company makes money, right? So things like administrative interface, user interface, just features and functionalities matter more than ever. And unlike a network project, it does become a little bit more subjective. I have clients here in this room who have verbatim told me, hey, if my team uses a platform and it looks like it was built 20 years ago, they're going to get disgruntled and they're going to quit. And yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. So it becomes subjective. So this goes a little bit beyond Zoom, but Shannon mentioned focus groups. So we'll meet with supervisors and actual agents, preferably without their superiors, like Matthew mentioned this morning. And just understand how they interact with their clients, what communication channels they use, what impediments they might have with their current tech stack, and then we'll put together a scorecard. So when those supervisors or agents are seeing future demos of some of the providers they might be evaluating, we ask them to score it, and then we'll aggregate those totals and put it together. So it makes it easier to socialize within the business. Hey, why are we going with Zoom? How did we come to this conclusion? I think you also get better buy-in from department heads because it's like, look, you were in the demo, you scored Zoom the highest, and us as IT department, we're giving you, what you want. So, Rick, I know it hasn't been too long, but just what kind of feedback have you got from some of the users, some of the supervisors? What are you hearing from the team so far?
I've seen the visibility and the KPIs coming back to the executive team, but also a ton of feedback from the agents. We're not in the 1980s anymore, right? We're actually using a modern UX. So I got a question real quick here, and this is really for the crowd. Who here is sick of CX, UC, CCAS, UCAS, all these different terms, right? That's not even getting to
AI.
IT, right? So I'm really glad that the whole technology world has come up with AI is the answer to everything. So we're just going to say AI for everything. We're going to know whatever tech you're talking about. Sorry. I've got a few giggles, so all right.
So, it's our job at C3 to remain unbiased, right? It's our job to understand a client's core requirements, business, technical, what their real success criteria is. And that's our compass for what we're trying to achieve in a certain engagement. So this is not a biased comment. This is a fact that anyone want to guess how many unhappy Zoom clients that we know of that have worked through C3? The answer is literally 0. So that's just a fact. I don't have any unhappy Zoom clients. So I think that's extremely telling with the volume of people we're seeing adopting Zoom. But I think anyone that has worked with Zoom or has some sort of Zoom license, you'd agree that you guys are updating and developing your product faster probably than anybody that we know of. So, we're always looking forward to what's the next best thing, what's coming up. So Shanna, what can you tell us about, some of the things that might be coming up here even in the near or even long term with Zoom?
So we just came off of Zoomtopia, so it's our annual, it was virtual this year. Hopefully we'll bring it back to in-person next year. A lot of people like coming to that in person in San Jose. But a couple things that we announced. So Agentic AI Expert Assist. So we do have AI Expert Assist right now. Again, for those of you that may not know, all of our channels are native, and also we do have AI Expert Assist on our video channels as well. So a lot of our clients like to use it. Maybe you're calling in for tech support. It's a lot easier to just do the seamless video escalation with the agent and the consumer to that video call. But we do have the AI Expert Assist on all the channels, right? But the Agentic AI Expert Assist coming out, and so all of our agentic capabilities there. And then also supervisor views for virtual agents. So our Zoom virtual agent, next generation. Again, all agentic capabilities for voice and chat. So now as a supervisor, you can have the same capabilities that you have with your human experts. You can now have that with your virtual agent. That is launching here in our Q1. And then we also have our connected CX pillar. So there's a 6th pillar coming out called CX Insights. And so that's turning every customer interaction into actionable insights and being able to leverage it with your business. So Rick, you have a lot of exciting things coming your way to look forward to.
No, looking forward to it. No, I mean, and that's one of the reasons we chose Zoom, is it was going to be a consistent, we were seeing the pattern of consistent new technology out there. We went live, the last locations into September. This Monday, we rolled out our first agent assist, where we're having agents, if you've ever gone to a doctor, right, sometimes there's a lot of specific things that it takes to schedule a patient. In our world, right, we actually had to schedule, we do glaucoma medical procedures, right? So for one group in Michigan, we had 78 pages that an agent had to look through to be able to schedule a patient. It was insane, right? And we worked with the business, got it down to 2 pages. I think it's really just 2 really long pages. But anyway, so now the agents are getting that as they're talking to the patient. It's predicting what doctor can see them for whatever, they can see them in Jackson, Michigan for glaucoma on Tuesday, and finding the right doctor, and then eventually to be the right insurance, et cetera. So a little bit of feedback in the first 2 days. We just rolled it out to a few agents, and so far it's been great.
I know we had a lot of hands, people who are involved directly or indirectly with the call center, but are any of you actually administrating or managing said call center from an IT standpoint out there? Anyone? So I'm curious on your feedback, and by the way, if anyone has questions, please put your hands up anytime. That is one of the challenges of, I have one provider for Agent Assist. I have another provider for workforce management. I have another provider for my virtual agent. I have another provider that's my chatbot. And it just becomes very challenging to manage that technically, operationally, commercially, contractually. And what we've seen, not just from Rick, but other clients that have evaluated Zoom, is that is one of a huge advantage, is all of these features that are core to a CX tech stack are built natively within Zoom. So it's easier to deploy, administer, manage, update, and frankly, it just looks modern. So people just like the way it looks and feels. But you mentioned CX Insights, so I want to talk about that because data's huge. Everybody's trying to leverage data and do more with it. So whether you're in the cloud today or you're on-prem and you're looking to modernize your contact center, where do you begin, right? You might have people in sales saying, hey, we really want this feature, or you might have supervisors saying, hey, we need a new WFM solution, right? And that's all great, and you want to serve those people. But one thing we did here in this engagement during the POC phase that was really powerful is, first, we looked at the data. So we took 50,000, I think it was 50,000 calls that were transcribed and recorded, and we put them into the Insights tool. So we could now see, here are the most common interactions. Here are the main reasons why a patient calls in to one of the clinics. So now you actually have the data. We know how our clients, patients, or customers or partners prefer to communicate with us. So now we actually know what technologies to implement and when and why, right? So I think that's an overlooked first step that a lot of companies don't do. Instead of just starting to deploy more modern communication channels, let's actually find out what's happening in the contact center. So that's what we did first. And we knew that one of the biggest things were people were calling in to either make, cancel, or reschedule appointments, right? And that's how MVP makes their money. So that's where we kept the focus, and that was kind of the core, focus around the deployment, to making sure that we didn't disrupt, those operations, and if anything, helped enhance that, that part of the business.
And I also like that you're taking it in phases, and you just rolled out AI Expert Assist, and you're doing it in a controlled focus group instead of giving it to everybody at once. That I'm sure could be a lot on your shoulders and your staff's shoulders, to have maybe the feedback right away from all of your agents, not just the few that you're rolling out to. So I think that's a really smart, just from my perspective, like your phased approach. And I know we didn't talk about that before this, but I really like that concept, and exactly what you said, Kyle, about just looking at it from, what do we need to prioritize in bucket 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have like just a few minutes left. Who has questions, whether it's regarding Zoom, anything about CX tech in general? Also, Rick has just kind of been through the gauntlet in major technology projects in his career.
Ask Rick the questions,
Yes.
please. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. Anybody use Teams? Yep. Okay. So I'm asking this question for probably at least some of the people in this audience. Hey, I use Teams. Our whole company's adopted it. And I'm interested in Zoom for certain features, whether it's CX related or telephony related, but I don't want people to get confused. You know, I still want them to use Teams for these things. And I don't want them to get confused. You know, what would you, because you guys are, at least internally, you know, team shops, what would you say to that?
I mean, we use a small instance of Teams, right? It's not a big instance, but I mean, sorry, I lost your question there, Kyle.
How do you delineate between making sure the business uses Teams for what you want them to use and not, you know, blur the lines with Zoom?
Frankly, most of our agents, they can use Zoom chat features, et cetera. We haven't provided a license to most of our staff for the full-on, because they're desk phones, right? They're front desk staff. They're the 1,000 users we have that aren't in call center are just office staff. Most of them are kiosks and walking around. So that really hasn't been an issue. So they're used to using whatever chat feature they had before.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon, but you could turn off certain features, right? You don't want them to use Zoom meetings? Great, you could just turn it off, and then your users won't even have access to that, right? So it's easier to kind of manage that from an IT administrator standpoint.
Yeah, and the admin tool is the same admin console that you're going to use for your, and you can probably speak to this, it's the same on the contact center side or your phone side. It's all in one interface if you're an admin, so you're able to easily whether turn on or turn off. And if you do have Teams, you can either direct route or do Zoom Contact Center directly into Teams, or if you have, maybe you want to implement some of Zoom Workplace, you can also embed that into the Teams client too. So I think it just, again, I think it depends on the environment. How would you like it to flow, and what would you like it to look like? We can make that happen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, the whole admin console is wonderful. I mean, it took me 5 minutes. I mean, it was, and I don't do single sign-on anymore, but it did go, you know, we did single sign-on. It was reporting, you know, billing questions. It's about as easy as it gets for an interface for administration.
Have we walked you through building a virtual agent yet?
Not me. I believe we have some of the call center team. So
Like 20 minutes, we can get one up and running?
There you go. This has been great. Thank you both so much. I would encourage anyone, if you haven't seen the Zoom CCAS platform, I think you will be pretty blown away. But what I would challenge you to challenge Zoom on, you know, is to work with your C3 advisor to arrange a meeting and pick, you know, 2 to 3 very unique use cases that are specific to your business that you still haven't solved for, and challenge Zoom to see how they would solve for those, you know, in their platform. But, you know, three years ago, I don't think anybody even knew. You guys had a CCAS solution, and I can objectively say, and our enterprise clients would agree, that it's pretty amazing where you guys have come in the CCAS space. So we appreciate you keeping our clients happy. And we hope you guys enjoy the rest of this summit day. We have, I think the bar's opening here at 4 o'clock, and please don't miss Stanley McChrystal's closing keynote with Matthew. And we hope to see most of you at dinner tonight. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.